Hi, first and foremost, guys, happy Deepavali. I'm working from home today, just to make sure that we have the presentation being done for today. What I'm going to do is today, it's a very interesting topic, and I think we have, learned a lot, shared a lot. So I'm quickly going to, deep dive into how we have, experienced, with in terms of the authentication platform selection. So we are obviously on the other side where we work with the customers and the partners to take it ahead. So this all is coming from our learnings with almost 46 or more projects that we have done successfully. And it's a beautiful day, so I think let me deep dive into this. First, I think the purpose of this particular slide or deck is that we want to show you that how you should be looking at different systems when it comes to authentication, and then take it ahead from there. So that's something that you need. So I think it will give you a little bit of questions or get you in the right track where what you should be asking when you're looking at your vendors, in terms of replacing or upgrading your system. So you would be using some form of the OTP right now, but I think the idea is to how you will elevate to the next level. So asking right questions is important. So marketing, people do a very good job of hiding away the devil inside. So you need to ask, and get much deeper, beyond the the cover of marketing, and really get into the technical stuff that needs to come in and impact your business. So the first question, which typically we have been asked, because we do bespoke security software also versus building software, and also selling software in terms of cybersecurity. So this is a very typical question that should or would have come into your mind earlier, so I would say, why not build? So what is not good about building is that firstly, you can pick up a lot of open source which is there, and then say, okay, let me build it out. So I will not get into open source. We have done good, the bad, the ugly open source series way back, so I can share the link later on. But over here, if you really look at it, if you decide to build, firstly, cybersecurity is complex, so you will be and it will increase, complexity increases over time, because you want to do more and more and more. So similar to features, and that complexity cannot be handled by just having a certain small team, and that leads to the second item, which is talent retention. So the people who are actually working on it, they would be super smart, and they would need the challenge all the time, but products do go through different phases and life cycle. So in a way, retaining talent is one of the biggest problem in this particular domain. 90% of jobs, right, cybersecurity are not filled. So you can imagine how much like how hard it is to find the talent and retain them. And third is the cost. So obviously, if you're building it, then you have to get into how you're managing your source, how you're getting your bugs, how you're getting it certified, how you're getting it proven, all those different kind of things. And that obviously involves people, tech, support, all these kind of costs, compliance costs, evolution costs, what we call it as. And lastly, which is the most important part, is that it is not your core, because if your business is in manufacturing, if you're in oil and gas, if you're in banking, then that's not something that you would like to do, right? So I think the idea is that if you try to build, then I would say that look at finding the right partner who will actually help you with this journey instead of building it yourself. So now let's get into something a bit more deeper when it comes to the authentication platform. So there are 5 categories of I would say questions that you should be asking when you're evaluating and looking at it. Again, my 15-minute presentation is not in depth, but it just will give you a line of thought, how you can move ahead. And we obviously can work with you to look much deeper what exactly you need, and why do you need it, and what should be the right solution that fits in. So let's dive into this now. First thing which any typical company has is that you have silos. That means you have different applications who are having different characteristics, who have a different need of business that has to come in. and then obviously take it ahead. So in this particular slide, which I love, is that each particular individual or the application owner has a different need. So let's say from VPN to Wi-Fi security to OTP token to Active Directory integration, or self onboarding and things like that. And then obviously, if you look at the other one, which is looking at digital certificate issuance and e-signing. So your need of security would differ based on what kind of business that you're doing. And digital transformation does demand you to look at security very closely. So digital certificates, facial biometrics, adaptive authentication, or SSO, SEIM. All these things are coming in to make applications more coming together, and applications to reuse as a single identity. So SSO is one of the big things that we have been hearing for last 5 or 10 years. But now I think that is where things are really heating up and coming together. So the idea is that you will have silos, you will have islands. You should look at how we can bring it together. So now, what are the 5 categories? So the 5 categories essentially are, first is your business. That means, are you B2B, B2C? So we'll deep dive into that. Then the second is user experience. Now, how relevant and important is the user experience, like where they're coming from, from their demography to their, to the kind of devices that they have. And then the third one is obviously the security features that are getting offered. So what are the use cases that you are trying to address? What is the, is it for consumers? It is for employees? Then obviously, what are the options that you want to give it ahead? Is it something that they'll be doing it all the time, or just once a month, or 2 times a year? So that could be a right, a choice of what you want to do. And then also what standards are being followed, and what are the features that are being, given out. So then obviously the fourth element would be your cost, which is, how the solution actually is priced in terms of the business model. So licensing support, what is the infrastructure that you need, whether it's on the cloud or on-prem, and obviously the service level agreement that needs to be, offered or should be there, based on your business criticality. And lastly, it's the deployment. So deployment talks about, in a way that like how it's going to get integrated with your different applications, how it's going to be, what is the risk that is associated if integration fails or if there's a delay, how does it impact your users? How does it impact your business as a whole? So all those things, come under that category. So these 5 should essentially put you in the right path of asking the right questions that could help you to, choose a platform, or choose a service provider that will be able to give you that. Now, one of the key things which I personally have realized is that let it be an employee, let it be a customer, any application would actually have what we call it as life cycle. So the management of life cycle is very important. So certain solutions, when we look at it out there, they will only cater for onboarding. Then there are other set of solutions who will only cater for MFA and SSO, multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, and all that stuff. And then obviously there is this other breed of new solutions, which is adaptive authentication, risk-based authentication, that is essentially helping you to bring more frictionless experience that is coming in. So if you really look at it, for you as a business, you need to look at it in totality. You need to look at it from end to end, meaning that okay, I'm going to have a user, I'm going to onboard the user, and I'm going to have that security being given to that, and then they will go through that life cycle, frictionless, adaptive, or active, MFA, whatever it is, and then they will get decommissioned. Now, can I have a solution which actually gives the whole part instead of me using 3 different solutions altogether? So 3 systems would need 3 licenses, 3 vendors, 3 projects, 3 SLAs, 3 point of failures, 3 upgrades. So instead of that, if you look at 1, so that is one of the key things, that you need to look at what is your life cycle of your users, and how security is playing a role in that when they get onboarded or when they are using on day to day, and also when they are getting offboarded. So this is one of the crux which I would like you to take it ahead, other than anything else, that what is the life cycle of my user and how am I going to make them run through the whole cycle with using least, obviously cost and the solution and everything, or having one solution which actually does that. Now let's look at business, the one of the first category. Now the first thing is that how many systems are you going to use? So answer would be I don't know, which is the right answer, because in future, if you have new applications, if you have new systems, if you have remote working, there will be an evolution of need, which could be internal, which could be external. So I think the first question needs to be asked is that I don't know the answer, because I want a system that should be able to handle any number of applications that I have, any number of groups of users that I have. So answer is n, or infinite. Second is your brand. Now this is one of the crux, and this is one of the reasons why most of the when we talk about BFSI, because that's where we work a lot, is that they do not roll out strong authentication systems because nobody's offering them their white label branded systems. So what happens is that, let's say, okay, you go to, I don't want to take names, but let's say you go to a big brand who's offering you a cloud-based, like a soft token, a push token, or a verification token, and you have that. But now when my user is doing a transaction and I'm using that particular separate app, it kind of, users don't care, much about that app. But then suddenly if you're asking them, hey, I will ask you to trust that application and verify yourself, that's where users shy away. And that is the reasons why most of the large, BFSI, they do not roll out, or they do not roll out higher grade security, because they are still stuck with, text messages, or, or a phone call, in the best case, to actually address to the, OTP requirement and all that, which is such 2010 kind of technology. So I think you need to look at, your customers with your brand, that I need to have a solution which is able to either white label it, OEM it for me, or I'm able to embed it. So we look at that part again. Then the third is, I think, which is very, very relevant, that what is my customer acquisition cost and my lifetime value of the customer. Now that would vary based on what you as a business are doing. If you're a SaaS company, a tech SaaS company, you will look at security differently. But if you're a manufacturing company, you might look at it as a cost, for bringing data privacy or bringing compliance. But at the end of the day, there is a cost for giving that security into your customer or into your employee's hand, into the end user's hand. So what is that? And I think that would lead to a very important question, that what is my investment when I'm going and looking for a solution? And I think last, when it comes to the category of business, is that what is the use case? So are you giving gift cards, access? So should I use, what kind of security should I use? I'm tax department, and my people only come twice a year, but I need to bring non-repudiation. So that means even though they only come twice a year, I still have to spend cost on digital certificate. So if I am a bank who's rolled out a master visa card, then how do I give that security where they can use it very easily, very quickly, even though they are internationally using it with international merchants, or they themselves are beyond the national boundaries. So the use case of B2B, B2C, B2E, or B2G, and what is the usage? I think that really defines how and what security you should be using or embarking upon. It's security versus usability versus risk, right? Like what you're investing and all that. If you know that your risk is not too high, or it's only exposed at a certain time, then you can actually do away with less security. But if you know that this is something I have to do because of non-repudiation aspect, or high out, or a brand getting damaged, so things like that, then you say, okay, nah, let me make that investment. So let's go to the second one now, which is user experience. So I think the whole world is about user experience. If I make a lousy slide, again, I'm not saying I'm an expert in this, but if I make a lousy slide, you would not like this slide, right? But if I make it a little bit more, presentable, make it, least clicks, make it clean, it's very important. So what we have realized is that when we are working is that, and when we sit down, with our clients and our partners and try to understand what exactly is needed when it comes to bringing customer onboarding, or bringing, security, right, into their, into their workflow, So over there, friction, do not add any new friction. Do not ask users to do anything new. Do not ask my customers to do, extra steps, elsewhere, or, things like that. And that is one of the biggest things that come in. Like, can I make it least friction or frictionless as much as I can? And the second part is onboarding. We expect users to do a lot more, and trust me, they don't want to do that much. Self-serving, or self-service registration is a great way, but again, it puts a burden on the user, and that is where hackers attack a lot. So you really need to look at it like, what should I automate? What should I auto-detect? What should I auto-fill? By talking to other systems, or by looking at the geolocation, or by talking to LDAP, or Active Directory, or talking to the historical data, or looking at their, image and saying, okay, let's pre-populate it. Do certain things which makes it easier for the user when they are onboarding. And I think that is very, very, very important right now, to give them an experience which is minimal effort and maximum impact. That's what I like to call it. And lastly, is that don't give user an experience where they have to go elsewhere. Give them an experience where it can be embedded inside your application. So let's say, for example, I am a insurance company, or I'm a bank, or I'm a crypto, trading platform. I embed the security, or I embed the customer onboarding inside it. Don't ask them to go to a third party and say, okay, you do it over there. After you have done it, then come and tell me if you've done it or not. Which is what is happening right now in the market, which is kind of confusing for the customers, because they don't like that. It's too much work for them. Nobody wants to work extra. We all are busy people. We all have busy lives. So user experience has to be very, very easy, with least friction, maximum embedding, and maximum, I would say, automation that can take place. Now, the third category is obviously the core, which is security. Now, in security, you should have option of covering 100% people, or 100% customer, 100% applications, regardless of whatever. Many times, I personally have, looked at, a couple of other, competitors or similar companies who, who do products like us. They say, oh, this is old technology. Now, I think that statement itself is in a way right, right or wrong. Okay, technology-wise, it would be, old, but from a business or from a use case point of view, it still makes sense, right? So look at solution which gives you 100% coverage. Like, for example, I'll give one more example, and then we'll, look into the slide. So we had a particular lead where they said that, okay, can I have all my customers using passwordless FIDO WebAuth? So we worked with a client, and he said, okay, let's look at the numbers. So we, looked at their Google Analytics, all the things that they had. Then we realized that almost 63% people were able to have the right compatible phones that were able to do, biometrics using FIDO. This is one of the ways. Now, what happens to the other remaining percentage, 37% people, right? So as a technology, you cannot say that I will only cater for 63. I will not cater for 37, right? So you need to find a solution that actually gives you both the options, which is user to have options. That means push, adaptive, geo, device, risk-based, facial, voice. There are so many things that can happen, over there. So that should be the options for the users. And when it comes to the integration, which is, how I can have my applications be integrated, with legacy or, the newer apps. So there is obviously OpenID, there is, SSO through SAML, then there is custom APIs if it's a bespoke software. If Radius, which is used for VPN or Citrix or many other network, or possibly those kind of remote access softwares, FIDO, SEIM for user management, Auth2, and much more, right, for hardware, software, tokens. So I think from a security point of view, please look at options that your users will get. So you have 100% coverage, and also look at integration options, which are making sure that all your applications are covered. So another example, we were working with one of the health companies, to evaluate how they are, how many applications. So they literally had about, I think 36 or 37 applications, out of which 25 plus applications were legacy. So they could not even do, SSO through a WebAuth, right? Some of them were able to use SAML, but most of them were still using username and password, which is where a reverse proxy approach had to be used to actually solve that problem. So what I'm sharing with you is that please look at options of what your applications need from an integration point of view, and what your users need, from an authentication point of view when it goes ahead. The next item is cost. That's the core of everything. Now, there are two ways of looking at it. Whether you as a business owner, not putting on the hat of technology, are you going to absorb this cost as in terms of your, sales and marketing to acquire customers, or as a regulation or compliance cost, which to protect against data breach or inside jobs and things like that? Or you're going to say, okay, hey, you know what, I want to make some money out of it, so how do I do that? So that's the hat you have to put on as a business user. And in that, you have to look at it. So technically, as well as business has to look at few of the things over here. MAUs is getting very popular now. So what does the difference between MAU and active users are? So let's say you are choosing a solution where you're saying, okay, I'll give you a user license of 25,000 users, let's say at $1 each, right, a month. Now, all 25,000 users, you're not going to use them. That means they are not, they might have registered it, but they are not actively using it. You only have, let's say, 7,000 users on a monthly basis coming and using the system. They're active. So monthly active user licensing will actually help you more when it comes to saving the money or pricing it rightly. So don't go for active users or just the user license, unless it's unlimited user license, which is great. But then you can have the MAU approach, monthly active users, which is, let's say in this example, 7,000 makes more sense. Then the second one is ceiling price. Now, if you really look at it, what will happen is that today you start, let's say you have 10 or 15,000 users. Over next 3 or 5 years, you're actually become 50,000 users. And let's say if you're doing B2C, there's a exponential growth, where you have, let's say, 500,000 or 1 million customers. Now, in that scenario, what happens is that your cost exponentially goes up, whether you're following MAU or whether you're following active user, whichever way. So whenever you're looking at a solution, you need to have in your agreement and contract that what is the ceiling or the maximum price I'm going to pay you, right? So if you say, okay, my ceiling, from your vendor, that my ceiling is nothing more than 15,000 MAUs is what my licensing. So that means if I'm charging $1 for, per MAU, that means $15,000 a month is maximum I will charge, even if I might have 25 or 30 or 50,000, MAUs coming in. So I'm just giving an example. Don't quote me on the numbers, but that ceiling is very, very important when you're talking about business growth, or when you're talking about multiple applications, having multiple users, using it at a different time, or using it occasionally or very frequently, whichever way. So your licensing has to be MAU and also needs to have a ceiling. Most of the vendors do not like ceiling, but but I'm sharing it with you. That is something you should be asking and demanding. Next is premium support. You are rolling out the system. It should be critical system, categorized as critical system. It should have that priority where premium support is a must. Sometimes standard support is what is being offered, office hours over email. But when systems go down, especially in the cybersecurity world, I think you need to have systems that should be, under premium support, under HA, high availability, under, well load balanced, well tested, system. So when you're doing the evaluation in the terms of deployment, I'll cover later. You should make sure that the system is able to handle high loads, but also if something like that happens or bad things happen, then you should have a premium support. And lastly, customization. I think if you really look at it, yes, product standardization is a great thing, but updates and upgrades are also, again, amazing thing. But what happens is that you will evolve, and when you're evolving with the system, you need to make sure that you have a certain level of customization that should happen. There should be every 3-month review that how we have done the performance, how many MAs are happening, what tokens are working, what security is working, can we do push, can we do this thing? So those reviews should happen, and there should be some, demand from your side on saying that, hey, can you give me certain man hours so that I can put some more insights, or I can customize certain things. I think every company can do that, every vendor can do that, every partner can do that, but you need to ask for it because it will not be there. But please do ask for customization as one of the options under your premium support or under your contract that you're going for. The last one, deployment, how it works, it does matter, whether it's Docker based or whether it's an old technology of, putting on a physical server. Sorry, I think I should have removed that comment over here. So just a cut copy of the slide. The second is that whether it's going to be on-prem or on the cloud. So some, vendors are saying, okay, we don't provide on-prem, we only provide on cloud. Again, based on your business need, you should have that. Like one of the projects we did was that the regulators did not allow the data, or especially the identity or eKYC data, should not leave the country. Now, if you're using Google and Azure for facial and OCR and all that, that means it's leaving the country. Now, that was a breach, right? Or I would say you're not complying with the regulation. So that's one example. Another example was that a telemedicine company said that, okay, I have to do, patient to doctor kind of conversation that should happen from on-prem system or within our data center, where all the records need to be captured. So privacy was one of the concerns, not security, but privacy was one of the concerns. So whether it should be on-prem, on the cloud, you need to look at your use case and take it ahead. Then data ownership, like, are you okay with data being kept somewhere else, software as a service, or you want to own it, whether it's getting mirrored, or not. So those are the questions you also might need to ask, when you're making a choice. And lastly, sites. Sorry, again, my bad. Sites would be whether it's a production site, disaster recovery site, how we are handling and managing them, and that's something that should be asked and taken ahead. Next is that there has to be a trust, goodwill, and value when it comes to you choosing. Now, when we talk about trust, meaning that is there enough trustworthiness that is being displayed by your, by the product or by the company, whether principal or or reseller. Is there a goodwill, by having those use cases addressed in the same market, or the team that is actually making it, are they capable of delivering it? And lastly, the value that they're giving in terms of premium support, in terms of customization, in terms of solutioning, in terms of sitting with you and actually saying, hey, let's solve the problem together. Today's world is not about problem solving. Today's world is about problem finding. We need to together, we need to find the problem or problems and then solve it, in that realm. And that is where I think we can really fix the deeper problems, that can happen, right? So not like, you are having a heart attack, but why are you having a heart attack? What kind of food you're eating? Are your sleep pattern is right? Are you too much stressful? So those kind of things is where you can find those problems and then say, okay, hey, let's avoid having a heart attack later. Yeah. So if you're looking at a partner, I think you should look at these three elements. One is whether they have proven track record, either a team or this thing. There are a lot of new startups who have come in. They do have great innovation when it comes to being a startup. They do offer free software. They say, okay, so we'll give you for free. But then will they survive for next 1 year or 2 years, right? So will they have a product which actually is being proven because the team is solid, that is being building it, or who is in their advisory board, things like that. So, and the second is, are they flexible? Are they flexible to offer you what you desire with each of your applications, customization, support, SLA, and things like that? And lastly, is it being localized in a way that because if you're doing customer onboarding, eKYC, Indonesia, Australia, US, like India, Nepal, all these places will need different treatment. So can your software or product, which you're going to use, it can be localized. Why? Because you'll have multiple applications, you'll have global, customers or users who are coming in. You might have different offices who are leveraging on the same system, or the same authentication system, and then taking it ahead. So what the idea is that when you're doing partner selection, apart from those 5 category of things that we have discussed earlier, 5 set of questions, you need to look at what the companies and what they are looking at. Yeah. So with that, I just want to say thank you. I think I overshot by 5 minutes, but I hope this was valuable for all of you to understand like how we are looking at the whole security part. And you should be asking these questions because these questions will help you to choose the right product. And do not go into just the marketing part, which is just to share, oh, this is the latest technology, this is what it is doing, but or this is free for you to use. Free is never free. I think we all have learned it. So let's look at how your security or authentication system should be evaluated. and taken ahead. So we do that. That's what we do. That's what our company does. So if you are interested, we can we can at least do a first round of discussion and help you out to understand how these particular formula can work for you, and what could be the cost. And security should be a commodity now, because we are a digital people, and we as Bluebricks are commoditizing cyber security and payments. Yeah. So with that, I hope you guys had a good fun. And once again, to a lot of a lot of friends of mine, if they're watching, happy Deepavali, and God bless you all. Yeah. Bye bye. Thanks.